I'm Justin Mott, real-life working photographer, former TV show host on a TV show you've probably never heard of on History Channel Asia called Photo Face-Off. I'm a wildlife photojournalist and editorial photographer. I've shot over 100 assignments for the New York Times, and I own a commercial photography and video production business called Mott Visuals, based here in Vietnam and working globally. And if you're new here, my channel is dedicated to all things photography, advice, BTS, me wearing this weird hat, Leica stuff, just all things photography from the perspective of a real-life working photographer. And today I'm going to go on a little bit of a rant, and I'm going to talk about things you should never say to a photographer. Whether you're a client hiring a photographer or you just have a friend who's a photographer, never say these things. That sounds like a threat. It's not a threat. I mean, you can say them, but we don't like it. We find it demeaning, insulting, embarrassing, or just annoying. So stay tuned to watch me rant and potentially ruin my commercial photography career. So before I get into today's topic, I just want to clarify and address a few things related to my last two episodes that I've done, which I've received great feedback from you guys overall. Of course, like YouTube, like anything online, there's going to be some comments that are negative. A few of those were funny. One person was like, you're no different with your fake plants and fake concrete. Well, guess what? That's a real plant. You can see it dying here. And that's real concrete. I don't know, are people faking concrete? It's like pretty cheap to have made. I don't know who's faking it, why you accuse me of faking concrete, but it's not. But more importantly, I've really enjoyed the feedback from you guys, and I also enjoy that you guys are sharing your stories with me. I really like this platform for that. Instagram tends to be quick comments, thumbs up, likes. YouTube, especially this audience, been quite engaging. I love that you guys have been sharing your stories with Leica. I like that even the people that are sharing their alternatives, the people that are into Fuji cameras and why, and Sony cameras and Canon why, I totally get it, and I love it, and I respect it, and it's just great to hear your stories, especially ones that have a history and a connection with their family and a certain camera. I love that you've shared your stories with me. It's been wonderful, and it's just nice. Like, I really feel like I'm coming, even though my subscribership is very low, and that's okay, I really feel like I'm connecting with you guys, and that's really wonderful. I feel like I'm finding the right audience for me, and I'm able to say the things that I want to talk about. Whereas before I always felt a little discouraged because I wasn't appealing to the masses. Now, addressing my YouTube photographer versus real life photographer, I just want to clarify a couple things in there. This wasn't any attack on a specific individual. I really wanted to set the record straight and talk about some things that I thought were misleading from the perspective of a working photographer, which I am. And it wasn't really directed at the masses of YouTube photographers or even the educational YouTube photographers. A lot of what they do is very helpful to people. I understand that. I respect that. It wasn't an attack on them. It was really just trying to go after the top of the top, sort of like the people with the millions of followers or hundreds of thousands of followers that I felt were lying or putting out misleading information. Sort of like the Jeff Bezos of YouTube photographers, right? Like, they should talk about e-commerce because they're great at that, but they shouldn't be talking about space travel because, like, they're not experts at that. But I don't know, I don't really follow that story, but it seems to be everyone in the news is talking about that, so I thought that would be a fun analogy. If it's not, okay, but you get what I mean. That's all the other stuff. Keep your comments coming, negative comments, like some of them, fine, we can debate and all that, but I don't have a brain. Like, okay, I do. Might not be a great brain, but I've definitely got one, or else I wouldn't be able to do this, whatever this is. Anyway, that's that. I appreciate the comments. Let's get into the rant. I'm sure this is going to lead to a lot more comments, but hopefully, we're all photographers on this one, so hopefully we can all appreciate this one. So let's get into today what I want to talk about, and that is what you should never say to a photographer. And this one actually might hurt me in my career because potential clients could see this and be like, I'm not working with that guy. Don't worry, I would never say these things back to you in your face when you say them to me. I'm just gonna say them behind your back on YouTube. So another thing I should say is I'm putting this out there for you, for your humor or your entertainment. So I'm probably gonna take a hit commercially. So in the meantime, you could maybe go to my website. I'm just kidding. But you could go to my website if you're interested in such things. If you're not, you can skip ahead about maybe like 20 seconds. But I do have on my website, I offer $99 for a one-on-one Zoom call photography consultation session with me. If you're interested in that, you can book directly on my website. I'll put the links in the description. I also sell a preset, but it's not one of those presets you think. This preset is not gimmicky. This preset will stand the test of time, but it's not gonna make you a better photographer. It's just a base layer of toning that I use to add a little contrast to my images, a little bit of pop. That's it. It's nothing crazy, nothing over the top. It's just my base layer of what I do. So that's my only preset. Sorry, I don't have like these fun packs with all this cool stuff in it. It's a very simple, very basic preset, but I use it on all my images to add a little pop. And the last thing I'm selling here is I have prints on my website for as little as $99 with free shipping around the world, so you can check that out if that's your thing. Okay, enough about that. Now let's get into the fun stuff. Okay, the first thing I'm gonna say, and this is mainly for friends, this doesn't really apply to the client thing, but it could be if you just had like a friend and you wanted to potentially use them for a commercial shoot. The first thing never to say to a photographer is, oh, could you bring your camera? All right, we've all heard that one before. We know what it means, right? Like I've actually had this happen to me. A friend asked me to bring my camera to their wedding, and then they didn't have a wedding photographer. It's like, oh, just take some pictures, that's fine. I'm like, never invite a friend to an event or your wedding or anything where you like expect them to take photographs. And you might be thinking in your head like, oh, well, they could just take a couple snaps and what's the big deal? It's just maybe just for an hour, enjoy the party. I've heard it all. Like I've heard really insulting stuff. I had someone invite me to like a party and was like, oh, you can come to the party and have free food. I'm like, I'm 35 years old with a decently successful business. Like I don't need free food. That's not like a big deal for me. It's like, oh, just come, bring your camera and take a couple snaps. Like, first of all, this is gonna sound cocky, but we don't take snaps. We take pictures. Like, we think about things. We think about light. We think about composition. We think about moments. So it's like, it's a lot of brain power. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of effort. And like, we hold ourselves to our standards. So you might even say to yourself like, oh, well, don't worry about it. You don't have to like go full out. Like any photographer that's like decent is like, will care about their name being attached to anything. So they don't want to like be at your event and just take a couple snaps. If they're not good, they're going to work until it is good, which is going to be work, not just in their head, not just during that time that they're shooting. It's a lot of work afterwards, which you don't even think of as well. Okay, so I do bring my camera to your event. That's a liability, right? I've got take for example this camera. I've got a $9,000 camera with a $4,000 lens. Someone could spill something on it, someone could break, or it could get stolen. So that's a liability just bringing it to your event. On top of that, are we just done when we take that hour? Or just hand you the memory card and you're gonna give it back to us? No, if you're a photographer, a working photographer, a professional photographer, or just care about photography, you're gonna go home, you're gonna back the images up, you're gonna tone the images, you're gonna recharge all your equipment for any other shoot that comes up, the other friend that's gonna ask you to bring your camera to the event. It's work. You're gonna have to send the photos, you're gonna have to deal with the person saying, oh yeah, I like that shot, number 7, but do you have that in black and white? Or can I get one where I don't look like I'm looking in that photo? Like, it's never gonna end, and it's a lot of work. Those are all emails. That's all time we could be doing other stuff for our business. We're gonna save the photos. That's money, putting those images on a hard drive, putting them in multiple places. So you don't have to do that. Yes, we do have to do it, because inevitably you're gonna lose the photographs. Most people are. I get it all the time on professional shoots when people hired me, where we say, we'll keep your photos for a year, and then 2 years later, we lost them. We don't know what happened. Do you have them? Not even do you have them, like they expect us to happen, even though the contract is like, we'll have them for a year, you figure it out. And even if we tell them to come up with a system where they store things in multiple places, inevitably it happens, so we back them up, it happens. We've got your back, but like if we're not paid, we don't wanna have your back. Does that make sense? And that's not to say like a willing friend at a wedding's not gonna help out or take some shots, or they might be into it and wanna do it. That happens as well. I'm just saying in general, like don't invite a friend that's a photographer with a stipulation that like it's just gonna be easy, they're just gonna take a couple shots. Like if you wanna hire them, if you don't. That in-between area where you're trying to like get them to do all the work but not pay for them, we don't like it, so just stop. And the next one will be more for a client, but friends do it as well. You're shooting for a friend or helping out a friend. You give you this one, right? This is something you should never say. They say, why don't you try ... Like insert like a different angle, insert, the model looking this way, insert. If you're not the creative director on that shoot, like even if you're the client in marketing and communications, like don't say that. Don't tell us like the technical stuff. Did you try a different lens? Did you try a different angle? Like, we know. We have tried that angle before. We tried it like years ago, early on in our career, and it didn't work, and we know it's not gonna work here now. That's why we're not trying that angle. Like, we've thought about this. A good photographer, a photographer that hopefully you've hired a good photographer for your shoot. You've vetted them, you've done research, you've looked at their portfolio, not just their Instagram account. You've looked at their references, you've looked at their experience. Like, trust us a little bit. When you start having these ideas about try this angle, try with this lighting, try with this, like all that time, because most of us are pretty polite, even though I don't sound like it right now, most of us are pretty polite. So like, we're gonna do it, but all that time that we're doing it, that time could have been spent doing what we do best, which is getting the shots that you hired us to shoot. So that doesn't mean that, if you're a client, you can't have a say in the shoot. That doesn't mean, little details like, oh, I think her dress is wrinkled and you notice that. That's okay, things like that. most of the time the overall mood of the shoot or direction of the shoot or what you're hoping to accomplish should have been figured out in pre-production. You should have had calls, you should have talked this through, and it should be a clear direction of what you're trying to accomplish. The best thing I can do would be to equate it to like a chef, right? Say you hired a private chef for a special event, like your anniversary dinner, or you hired a chef to cater your wedding. You're gonna talk about ahead of time, you're gonna come up with a clear plan, what kind of flavor profiles, all that kind of stuff, the whole menu, what you're looking for. That's fine. On the day of the wedding, on the day of the event, are you gonna be in the kitchen like, oh, that's how you're gonna season that dish? Oh, that's how you're gonna flambe the, whatever you flambe, bananas? You flambe bananas? Flambe, did I almost just say? Yeah, I mean, you're not, right? Like the chef would kick you out, they'd be annoyed. Like let them do their job and let us do our jobs. If you looked at our portfolio and you like what you saw, let us do what we do to get those shots. That's how we get those shots, doing what we do. We don't go to each shoot and like, how do we do what we're doing? We need the client to tell me how to do something. It's like, no, that we do what you see in our portfolio the way that we do it. That's not to say you should accept a photographer being arrogant or rude or anything like that, but when it comes to creative process, like, let us do our thing. And we'll get you what's on our website or the equivalent of what you hired us to do for you. We'll do it. Trust us a little bit. And the next one's happened to me like a lot. It's happened to me at a wedding. It's happened to me on a hotel shoot. And this one is like, don't ask the photographer like, oh, can my friend shadow you for the day? He's interested in photography. He's learning about photography. Like at first glance, you're gonna be like, well, why not? What's the problem, right? What's the big deal? He wants to learn. There's a great opportunity to learn. Well, a professional shoot comes a lot of stress and a lot of different things that the photographer will have to manage. One more thing going into that is one less thing going into the overall creativity and the overall quality of the shoot we're doing for you. So another reason why we don't like it is, and this has happened to me, like it's just setting things up for a problem, right? You know, this is always the case too. We have someone like, oh, the graphic designer he's our guy. He's got the best eye for photography in the office. Like he's really good. I'm like, yeah, he might be good, but like, is he as good as me? Like you hired me to do the shoot, and if the graphic designer is weighing in on things about the way they're gonna do a layout, that's fine. But if the graphic designer is shadowing you with a camera, like, I mean, I'm not gonna jump in and after the shoot and be like, oh, that's how you're gonna lay it out? Or just be looking at them and lurking while they're doing it. It's annoying. And really, like one of the big reasons we don't do this, because this has actually happened to me before, and it's ridiculous. And I knew it was gonna happen, but I still let it happen. And it was just a pain to deal with. It's like, okay, so you've got the graphic designer following around the camera all day. You've already done the scouting. You've already done the research. You're using your experience to create a shot. You set up the lighting, you set up the mood, you picked the time of day, you put the models into position, you picked out the makeup, your team picked out the wardrobe, everything, right? You go in there, you set it all up. That's the hard part, right? Figuring that out, conceptualizing that, using your experience and using your entire team to bring this to life. And it's not just the photographer, I should add too, like a lot of big photo shoots, it takes a team to make this all happen. And then this other photographer comes in, the friend or the graphic designer or the person in the office that likes photography, they come in over your shoulder and just like take the same exact shot, right? It's not that hard. And that's like, okay, you say, well, what's the big deal? You're the pro, who cares? The big deal is two problems there. One is they use that picture in their portfolio. It's not really their picture. You created it, you crafted it, you conceptualized it. They just came in and just mimicked it. You could say, well, anyone could look at your picture and mimic it. Like, yeah, fine, do that. But like for me to like set it up for you and do everything for you and then you just take a picture, like that's ridiculous. And it does end up on people's websites, and that has happened to me, and it's a pain. And the second reason is, for lack of a better word, people can be dumb. People can be dumb and ridiculous. Like I've had people who I've let do that shot. I was trying to be nice, and then later they say, oh, like Jim got the same shot as you. Like almost as if like, we paid you a lot of money and he's just as good of it. Or like that is the extreme ridiculousness because they were there and they saw that we crafted and did everything. But like sometimes that picture is like shown to someone else who didn't know that, and they just thought like, oh, you took all these and then he took that one as well. So you cost X amount of dollars. He was free and is just starting in photography. He got the same thing. So why do we pay all that money to you? So don't ask us. That's why. That's why we don't want to do it. We're not being mean. I'm already starting to formulate other ideas in this process, so I might need to do a part 2. If you guys want to see a part 2 or have any of your ideas that you want to share, put those in the comment section because I'd love to hear them. I love hearing from this audience because you guys do have some great ideas, so let me know in the comment section. If you do happen to be one of my existing clients or former clients and you're watching this, of course I'm not talking about you. Of course not. I didn't take it that way at all. Or if you did say it to me and you know you said it to me, no hard feelings. I forgive and I forget. Maybe you can just learn from this for the next one. Or if you have a rebuttal and you say, that is stupid, this is what I should say, and this is why I said it, and you want to say it, you can say that as well, and we can have a dialogue about it. That can work as well. Thank you guys for tuning in today. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe, and have a wonderful day. Take it easy.